Hey folks, Jonathan here. Picked up another car. This is an old, I guess you could call a field find. Sit in a field for a lot of years. Kind of got lucky. The guy had already put tires and looks like a set of, later model Ford rims on it. These are 4.5 by, or 5 by 4.5, lug pattern wheels. So anyway, this is a 1951 Studebaker Champion Starlight Coupe, and this is one of them cars that either people really like it or they really think it's ugly, and I really like it. I just like the styling of it. I think that they were definitely different. Of course, this was after World War II, so this was sort of the jet era, I guess. And Ford had a bullet nose car also around the same time, but I think 50 and 51 is the only year that Studebaker done this. And never owned one of these cars. I actually rode in one old 6-cylinder overdrive Champion. It wasn't a Starlight Coupe, I think it was a 4-door, but man had it, and when I was younger, and took me to ride in it. And this car here is a 6-cylinder with a 3-speed and an overdrive, so it's the same setup. And anyway, what our plans are is we're going to, of course, do a first start on it, or try to do a first start on it, and see if we can get her to fire off. I'll show you the engine here in a minute. Body wise, got quite a bit of rust on this one. There's some places where it's got some rust on the surfaces, and then it's got it's kind of funny because the rocker is actually really solid under the car, and the rear floors are really solid. Front floors are terrible, like it possibly got rained in or for a while. But the bottom of the door is really rough. The bottom of the front area of the quarter is rough. Now these fenders, or rear quarters you can call them, they actually unbolt from these cars and can be bolted back on. This car, to me, of course, is way farther than what somebody would want to do a restoration job on, but that don't mean it can't come back as a old driver, hot rod, rat rod, whatever you call it, anything you want to call it. But I don't think a car should be retired just because it's old and ugly and got a little bit of rust on it. It's the money wise, it would never be feasible to go back and make this like a new car or restore it. But I don't want to see it get crushed either. So we'll make a driver out of it and do just like we've been doing on some of these other cars. We'll do a first start, first drive. We'll go through the brake system and make it safe, and then maybe we'll wipe it down with some linseed oil or something, and try to make it presentable to somebody, and they can maybe enjoy it. And I know I'll enjoy it. And I think you think and try to figure out why you like doing this stuff. Now I love working on it, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of it's got to do with the driving of it. I don't know that I want to own every car in the world, but I wouldn't mind driving every one of them. It's something about getting in there and the different manufacturers and just seeing, the differences on them, and how they feel and react, and just the different ways that they build them. The dashes in these cars are way far forward. Your steering column comes way back, and just different. It's a different feel, and I just enjoy it. So they definitely went all out when it comes to designing this one. This is why it's called the Starlight Coupe. It's because of the wraparound window in the back. And this one, of course, the glass was broke out on this corner. It did come with a glass. I'm just going to have to figure out how to get that rubber out, which is no problem. This is a single piece. It's separate from this piece. But I'm going to get it out and probably soak it in something to get it softened up before I'm going to be able to get a window back in it. Now, there's broken glass in, so I know it was broken, but there's actually an extra window laying in it. The guy that this came from actually has a lot of Studebakers, and this was just one that he decided that he wasn't going to mess with and keep, and I was able to buy it from. This does have paperwork. I did get a good title with it. Tail lights, that's glass. They're not plastic. So you never have to worry about them. You worry about getting broke, but you don't have to worry about them fading or changing colors or anything like that. And they're actually in really good shape. A few dents on the car. Nothing real major. Bumpers are pretty fair. This one's bent up just a little bit in the back, but it can be straightened out. Let me see. Got some drag racing stuff here. It's got Good Guys membership, Rod and Custom. You know, the sticker's been on there a long time. The sticker's all cracked up. But you would think that this was taken to the drag strip. It's got a champion. It says never beat 25 something runs maybe. Sandy Run Dragway Champion, Hillside Dragway Champion, Harris Dragway Champion, Spartanburg Dragway Champion, Asheville, Shady Side, and there's another one at the bottom. But I don't know why this stuff's written on there. This is the stock 6-cylinder car, so I don't think there was any drag racing history with this thing. But that's kind of funny anyway. But I'll show you the inside. It's really rough. We've got some major floor issues. But I wanted to explain something about, on these floors, and you'll see when we do the Nash. I've done this stuff for years. I was doing this long before I was ever doing any videos. I bought a lot of cars that was in this kind of condition, or a lot of times worse, and would, if they had an engine in them, get them running. But usually it was a no engine situation where I would put something in it. And just for instance, I bought a 55 Dodge Royal and 2-door car. The floors were basically just missing. I mean, no floors in it, and no seat in it, and no engine, no transmission. I put a 472 Cadillac engine in it. I'll come in and I just used 11 gauge steel, and which is much heavier than what an original floorboard is. I come in and built flat floors, sort of like I done in my 57 International Rat Rod. And the floors don't have to come back to original. I mean, this car is never going to be an original show car, so, why does it matter, So, went back in with heavy steel. Just do the floor, have it sealed up good to where it's a driver, and leave it at that. I mean, I checked under this car. The body mounts are good. The, the frame's fine. It just needs some attention on the floor. It's not a giant, big job. A full good hard day's work will just about knock out this floor. Main thing's getting it all cleaned out and out of there, and just come in there and, like I said, just use a heavier plate and cap the floor off and be done with it. And there's no reason in this world why this car should have to go buy floorboards to put back in this and then try to make them look like it's an original floor, because it's not. Unless you're trying to pass something off that is not real, it's just not going to happen. I mean, not on this car. And the car's way too rough to try to take back to an original. But everything's pretty much here. I don't think there's much of anything missing on this car. Of course, the interior, like I said, is basically shot, and it does have the overdrive. And let me see, brake pedals to the floor. Clutch does work because I can shove it in, the car will roll, let the clutch out, and it stops. So, the clutch is working fine. I noticed there's a service tag, and a service tag there. I don't know if I can get the dates off of them. And then there's 3 or 4 on this side, so somebody definitely kept it serviced. And serial number. Like I said, I do have good paperwork for this one. Don't know if I can get a date off here or not. I don't see it. Yeah, it'd be nice to get a date off of one of these, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But somebody kept their car serviced anyway. And so let's look at the engine and see what we're going to get into there. This is another car that actually has a hood cable and a hood pop from the inside, which is, kind of odd for 51. Okay, under the hood, we are missing the emblem here. And I noticed we're missing the parking light that goes in there. Not a big issue. Let me get the hood up. These things have got hood props instead of springs, so let's set the camera down here. Kind of funny, the hood is actually just a sheet of steel. There's no bracing under this hood. There's a round brace up toward the front, and then your hood prop goes in the hole here. And as you can see, goes down just like a later model car, and there's your piece that you lay it into. But no bracing at all, and it's heavy. So made out of some heavy gauge stuff. So here's what we got. Small 6-cylinder, I think this is a 170. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what this is. Engine is not stuck, but does have a little bit of carburetor issues. The nut filter was missing, and you can see looks like the dirt daubers. Yeah, because there's more there. The dirt daubers have gotten in there, and this came from the mountains of North Carolina, so looks like they must have had a lot of clay, because the dirt dauber nest is a lot more red clay looking than what they are around here. But everything seems to be here. I don't think this thing's been messed with at all, and one of the reasons I say that is the fuel line is still hooked up to right to the fuel pump where it's supposed to be. Usually if I pick up a car that has been messed with, someone's tried to start, usually that line's taken off and, you know, ran to a can or a jug or something like that. This one is pretty, what you would call, I guess, unmolested. Nothing's been messed with, changed. Everything looks pretty original. Like I said, I don't have the air cleaner, but I don't know what they looked like on these cars. And okay, after the Nash deal, really puts you to mind and makes you think about how bad these engines can be inside that you can't see, and especially when you see stuff like this. But you know, it's one of them deals. I wonder how many of them I started that had a bunch of nuts in them that you know, got burned up or maybe shot out the exhaust. I don't know. You know, I think back on it because I've done so many first starts, and then, you know, we take that head off at Nash and find all that stuff in it, and it's kind of weird. Now, don't have to worry about the water passages on this because everything was you know, tied up. The hoses was all on it and everything, so I don't think there's going to be anything in the water jackets. Bad thing is the exhaust is broke off down under and a little ways back, so we know that mice probably climbed up the exhaust pipe into the manifold. But we are not going to tear this engine apart just before we start it. May pull the plugs out and you know, check it out in there. See how bad it looks. Of course, we'll have to pull the carburetor off. And now the engine is not stuck. I have already checked that. I don't want to roll it over with a battery or anything until we get this carburetor off of it. But when it comes to moving, well, it's moving really easy now because the weight of the car's on it. So if I turn it, it turns real good. So I don't think there's going to be any issues sticking wise. I don't know. Like I said, I have no clue anything about this engine. The guy I bought it from's never heard it run. He's owned it for years and years, and so we'll just go with it. Now, I pulled the dipstick tube out earlier, and I remember this from when I was young, but I can't think of a brand or anything else. But the oil last night almost looked like it was green, and I don't see it now. I guess maybe it was the light. It had a really green tint to it, but it smells good. I mean, it smells like old oil. It don't smell like there's any gas in it. Yeah, I don't see the green tint to it now, but it had a pretty good green tint to it. But it's full of oil. I don't see any water in it. I don't think there's any issues there. Starter's on. The wiring's about as usual. And I do see the overdrive switch, and of course it's stuck. I know that has to do with the overdrive. I'm not real familiar still on these overdrives, but we will learn it, and hopefully I will know most of what there is to know about an overdrive setup on an old car by the time I'm done with this and the Nash. And So I don't see any big issues. I think we can make it run. But that's the plan. Get it started, and then we'll end up, getting all the brakes together and going on it, and see maybe if we can push this thing forward to somebody that's going to do something with it, whether it be drive it or hot rod it, rat rod it, do something with it. No longer sitting in the field. That's the important part, and I think it'll make somebody a neat little car. I'll probably go ahead and order the windows for this side, the flat glass. I can order them through Bob's Auto Glass. There's a couple other places you can get them that's pre-cut. I can actually buy these two vent windows, which it needs this vent window. These and both side door windows in a kit pretty cheap. Now the windshield you can still get, but it don't need one, of course. It's got a little white around it, but it'll be fine. And since we've got our rear glass, which is the hard one to find, we'll try to get it in. If anybody's got any suggestions on what to soak that rubber in to get it soft again, let me know. I haven't done any research to try to find out, what it would take, but I'd like to do it. But neat car, it's different. Difference always good around here. I think it'll be neat to drive it and see if it'll drive. And not a lot of horsepower, not a lot of cubic inch. I think these might be 85 horsepower is what they was rated at, which is actually pretty high for the cubic inches. Mirror is mounted on the dash instead of mounted on the up top. It's loose, but which is kind of different. I don't have a key for it, but I can take that lock out. I've got a guy that, I think it was, the last one I done was 10 or 15 bucks. He makes keys for me for these old cars, and that fit the actual lock that's there. And so you really can't beat that price. All the knobs, seem to be there. We've got a heater, no radio. Steering's actually really not bad. I mean, in comparison to most of what I get a hold of, to have no more play than that, that's not bad at all. Seems to steer good. Anyway, keep checking in, and we'll be doing a first start on this one soon. The Nash is moving right along. We're just about done with the brake system on it. The 50 Chevrolet, I'm going to have to pull the tank off. I'm probably going to replace the tank. It's picking up some of that tank sealer that was in it, and it almost looks like mud in the carburetor, and I don't like that, so we're going to do something about that. And I'll tell you about, probably we'll do a video on the 50 Chevrolet, and I'll tell you about an issue that we had there on it, and we'll just keep moving along. Now, I'll tell you one thing, the guy that I got this from did say, if this car had a V8, because the V8 was an option for this car, it would have electric windshield wipers. And if it had a 6-cylinder, it had vacuum. Don't know why, but that's one of the deals. And anyway, I appreciate everybody watching, and hopefully this one will run as good as the Nash and some of the other ones we've gotten. I've got really good luck with this. Surprisingly, when I start these up, I usually don't have any big issues, no big rod knocks or nothing like that. If it does, it does. It is what it is. This would be a good candidate for that 239 Ford Y block because it's short and would fit in there good. So if there's a problem with that engine, maybe we'll just throw it in there and we'll have a home for it too. So, all right, appreciate everybody watching. Till next time, bye.